1992, Bellevue, Washington. Child support, making men pay. Quote, many wives couldn't afford to throw their breadwinners out if the displaced breadwinners didn't pay them to do so. Close quote. Daniel Amnius, The Garbage Generation. Most divorced fathers are not deadbeat dads. In 1987, the courts awarded child support to 59% of the women demanding it. Of these, 76% of their husbands paid as best they could, and more than two-thirds paid the full amount. Footnotes are on the article linked in the low bar. While this indicates most men are not deadbeats, when it comes to men, feminists see a half-empty glass every time. Quote, 60% of divorced fathers contribute nothing at all to the financial support of their children, close quote. Sylvia Ann Hewlett, A Lesser Life, The Myth of Women's Liberation in America. In the state of Washington, at least half of this is because 30% of divorced fathers have custody of their children, while only 3% of non-custodial mothers pay child support. But in their enthusiasm to portray all men as the evil oppressors of helpless female victims, feminists gloss over all mitigating factors, incriminating all men because fewer than 15 out of 100 divorced fathers refuse to pay. Debtor's prison is for men only. Some men are deadbeats, but many others have good reason to default on child support. After losing custody in a biased judicial system that would rather grant custody to abusive mothers than responsible and gainfully employed fathers, some men simply give up. Still others balk when their ex-wives make it virtually impossible for them to enjoy such visitation rights as the prejudiced and often male feminist judges allow them. To fault fathers for this is to blame the victim. Quote, men get thrown into jail for failing to meet the financial obligations resulting from divorce, but judges will not even consider jailing a woman who does not keep up her end of the settlement, such as assuring the husband of his right to visit the children. Close quote. C.H. Friedman, Manhood Redo, Standing Up to Feminism. Should a man support a family his ex-wife has stolen from him? Most men play by rules of fairness, and being required to pay for something without benefit is grossly unfair. And so while some men go on strike, refusing to pay child support altogether, an increasing number of men are learning to stop listening to the propaganda and start examining the facts. So what are the facts? Well, first, we need to support children. Their welfare must take a high priority. This is a fact. But relying on the myth that mothers make the best parents, feminists use children as a weapon against men. But men nurture children too. In many ways, they care for children more than women do. A mother may bear children, nurse and rear them, feed and clothe them, but the homes, the food, the clothing, and most of what makes life after birth possible usually comes from their fathers. Most men want the best for their children, and it's this masculine will to nurture that feminists appeal to when they use the issues of child support and child custody against men. They know most men are decent enough to let themselves be victimized for the sake of their children, and feminists rely on this masculine goodwill at every opportunity to obtain from men what Ayn Rand called the sanction of the victim. The sanction of the victim is the only weapon that the morally weak have against the strong, because it depends on the cooperation of the strong in their own destruction. Quote, a father who sends his ex-wife child support money is subsidizing the destruction of his own family. Close quote. Daniel Amnius, The Garbage Generation. Feminists cannot use facts against most men because all the facts taken together don't support their bigotry. Nor can they use direct force because that would expose the fundamentally violent nature of their hate male, that is, M-A-L-E, agenda. So they rely on propaganda, the big lie, to loudly drown out what does not support them. Most child abusers, for example, are women. Newspapers and television make it seem otherwise by sensationalizing abusive men, and the courts ignore it by awarding custody of children primarily to women. Feminists know this and fear the truth will get out because when the courts ignore the gender of the parents, they usually find men make better custodial parents. What's more, feminists know that. See Feminism Unmodified, Discourses on Life and Law by second-wave feminist Catherine A. McKinnon. They know it. They know the truth, and they lie. Most men are not deadbeat dads. In fact, as non-custodial mothers are far less likely to pay child support than non-custodial fathers, it would be far more reasonable to castigate women for being miserly moms. What's more, were they so inclined, men could make a good argument against awarding child custody to women at all. Rather than fighting one another, however, we should encourage joint custody because children fare best with two parents. We need to discard the demeaning myths about men and accept that both women and men are accountable for their own actions. Children need both parents. 2016, Olympia, Washington. Well, that was 25 years ago, and now it's becoming increasingly obvious to millions upon millions of men, especially men of the millennial generation, that whether out of wedlock or in marriage, having children is a minefield for men. This is just one of the many reasons why more men are saying no to marriage and yes to MGTOW.